The gap you leave to stuff your plushie doesn't have to show, not even a little bit. Why don't you come along today with me while we learn the ladder stitch and how you can improve yours. Okay, so I just sewed this giraffe and I need to close up the back of his head and his backs of his arms and his legs. And I'm gonna do that with the ladder stitch. So today he is a light colored fabric. I'm gonna use a dark thread so you guys can see what I'm doing. When you're doing it, try to match your thread color to your fabric color. So even if we do make a mistake, it's not nearly as noticeable. Before I get started sewing, something that I think really helps to make the ladder stitch go quite easily is to mark two things on my fabric. The first is the seam line. I'm going to mark right along the fold where the machine stitching ends, and that'll give me a consistent line to follow. And the more accurate you are with this stitch, the more invisible it will be. That's especially helpful if your closing gap falls on a curve, which happens with plushies more than you'd think. Like this is a curve. So drawing the line is really going to help us to stay where we need to. If you can see, it naturally folded as I was working right here. If we follow that line, we are way off from where it needs to be. So if we measure 1/4 of an inch, we're right up here. So I want to go along and do that to all of it so I can be accurate as I go. So the second thing I want to mark is my stitch spacing. I place marks every 1/8 of an inch across both sides of the gap, directly across from each other. That will keep my stitching invisible when the stuffing is pulling against your stitching. So I'm going to mark it as accurately as possible to 1/8 of an inch. When we're working with stuffies, that stuffing really puts some pressure on these stitch lines, so doing them a little bit closer is a good idea. Man, this is a bugger to do with a camera in your face. We're gonna knot our thread. If you're not sure how to make a knot that won't pull through your fabric, I've got that video linked up above so you can see that. I like to work from right to left, which is good if you're right-handed, or you might be more comfortable if you work left to right if you're a lefty, but it just gives a more natural feel as you go. So the first thing you do is you pull your needle from the underside up closest to the machine stitching as possible on the line that you just drew. Now we're going to cross the gap to the mark directly across from where you came out. Go in at that mark and come out the next one. You're going to cross this gap, go down at your marked line, and in one motion come up again at your next line. You're going to go back across the gap at that line and come back up again at your next marking. And back and forth. Down in and back up again. And back over to this side, in and back up again at your markings. The more accurate that you are, the more invisible your stitch will be. Pull the thread through, but don't pull it tight yet. Keep the gap open while you work. I like to pull the thread snug every few stitches rather than after every single one. It gives you more control. You're going to keep repeating that in at the mark, out at the next one, all the way down the gap. After a few stitches, you're going to start to see why it is called the ladder stitch, because it looks like rungs of a ladder. And that's when the best part comes in. See, you get to pull all of them tight and it just sticks, zips right closed. Okay? Look how nice that looks. So we're going to keep going. I wanted to show you another way of doing it. Another option is to mark on your finger the stitch line length. So you don't actually have to mark your fabric. And that will help you to get the right distance as well. So you can use this as a guide to help you know where to go next. Although I do find the finger method a little awkward personally, but maybe it will work better for you. As you get towards the end, tuck small pieces of stuffing into the gap as you go. You couldn't fully stuff that area with the hole open, so this is your chance to fill it in before you close it up. So here it is, all finished. Look how clean it is, and you can hardly tell it's there. And you know, if this was a minky instead of cotton, it would be super invisible. You would not see it at all. So now I've got my thread. I need to tie it off. Hopefully I can do this so you guys can see. This is how you tie it off. You grab a tiny bit of thread from the very end, leave the loop at the end, and then you just go through your loop 2 times. 1, 2. And then you just pull it tight, and that's it. Once it's tight and the knot's there, you go back into that same spot and come back out in some random spot, and you pull your thread through. That will hide your thread at the very end. So then you just pull this tight, cut it with your scissors, and that thread will pop right back in. And that's it. Look how great that looks. We'll wash that pencil marking off, and then it will look so good. So I've got this free giraffe pattern linked in the description. It is a great one to practice your ladder stitch skills on. Go download it, sew it, and see how invisible you can make that closing. So once you've got the ladder stitch down, you've got one of the most satisfying finishing skills in plushie making. And nobody looking at your finished plushie is going to find that seam. And that's exactly the point. That is why we use the ladder stitch. That's what makes it look done, not just sewn. I'll see you guys in the next one.